In today's video, we're going to talk about how to lose 2 pounds a week. I'm going to do it in 4 little steps. So first up, we're going to talk about human energy stores, which is how much energy you have stored on your body. Then we'll talk about the mechanics of losing 2 pounds a week, your personal energy constraint, what you're dealing with, and finally 5 practical steps to make this a little bit easier. First up, I just want to qualify myself and show you that I do know what it takes to lose 2 pounds a week. This is a DEXA scan from the end of a challenge I did with clients back in January. I basically went from about 205 down to 185 in 10 weeks. So 2 pounds a week for 10 weeks. And I also had a bunch of clients who, lost a similar amount of weight. Some of the clients that did better lost in that range of kind of 15 to 20 pounds. So today's video is based on, experience and evidence and science underpinning what we're going to do. Okay, so first up, I'm quickly going to talk about human energy stores because this will help us understand the problem. So basically, all of us have kind of energy stored in our body in different forms. We've got body fat, which is the primary kind of store of excess energy. Then we've got muscle protein, which we can actually also kind of break down and use for energy. And then there's also some carbohydrates kind of stored in glycogen in your liver and in your muscles. So it changes from person to person, but roughly in a small person, the carb storage is actually quite small. In all of us, we've got a very small amount of the carbs that we can store in the form of muscle and liver glycogen and a little bit of glucose in our blood. So roughly say 1,000 calories in someone small, 1,500 calories in someone medium size, and then someone bigger might have kind of 2,000. A really kind of big athlete might have 2,500 because they've got a big glycogen store, which they use for all their exercise. Next up, we have protein. So in someone smaller with limited muscle mass, it might be kind of 20,000 calories stored in terms of kind of muscle protein. 30,000 in someone moderately stored, or 40. Someone really big could easily have 50,000 of calories kind of stored. Well, maybe not 50,000, but 40, 45,000 stored kind of in their protein, in their muscles. And then finally, the fat storage. Now, this is primarily where we store our energy, which makes sense because it's by far the densest way for the body to store energy. It's many-fold, 5-6 times denser, the energy store in your fat mass than it is in the glycogen or in the muscle. So in someone kind of, with probably 11, 12 kilos of fat on them, that's about 100,000 calories stored in their fat mass. And then someone more typical kind of mid-range weight would have 150,000 calories. So that's someone with like 17, 18 kilos of fat. So for instance, I'm currently, I guess, kind of probably 13, 14 kilos of fat. So I'd be in between these two. And then someone who's got a fair bit of weight on can easily have 250,000, 300,000, 350,000 stored calories in their body fat. And the reason why this is important, because we need to understand when you're losing weight, people always invoke this kind of 3,500 calorie rule. And it's not quite right, because you don't just lose body fat. You lose a bit of water, you lose a bit of muscle. So a good thing to aim for if you're trying to lose 2 pounds of fat is, we know that there's about 3,555 calories in a stored pound of fat. There's about 800 calories in a pound of muscle, and there's about 700 in carbs. We can discount the carbs because there's a tiny little kind of storage area for your carbs, and that just goes up and down depending on how many carbs you're eating. So it's not really relevant for the long-term weight loss. We know that you can lose a little bit of protein. We know from the studies that it's typically 75% body fat and 25% protein, which means that for a pound of fat, to lose a pound of weight, we lose at about 3,000 calories, and obviously we're trying to lose 2 pounds a week, which means we need to create a 6,000 calorie deficit per week. So that's the framework. That's why we talked about that just now. I'm saying if you consistently create a 6,000 calorie deficit and are able to maintain it as your body uses less and less energy, then you can grind off 2 pounds a week at quite a decent clip for quite a long time. Now, so I've just explained, to lose 2 pounds a week, you want to be creating a deficit in the order of 6,000 calories a week, which depending on how much energy you use can be very difficult or very, pretty simple. So basically, I want you to understand that over the course of a week, your energy needs kind of bounce about, but typically, they'll change day to day, but the average for the week of where you're currently at is what people call your maintenance calories. So let's just, for simplicity's sake, say that somebody's maintenance calories are 3,000 calories a day, which is a very typical number for a man, For a woman, it's typically, down in the 2,300, but there's lots of variation, right? So if this person's maintenance was 3,000 calories a day, then their 6,000 deficit could be created by going down to 2,000 calories a day for 6 days a week, having 1 day off on Saturday, and then, so we've got 6 deficit days. So 6 days where we're 1,000 calories below where we're at. Where you can see, obviously, when you're starting at 3,000 calories, eating 2,000 calories a day sounds kind of plausible, right? Now, the problem is that this range of energy needs varies very, very, just loads. So for some people, losing 2 pounds a week is very, very possible because they have high energy needs. So if you're at 4,000 calories for your maintenance, then eating down around 3,000 calories a day is exceedingly, not easy to do, but it's very plausible, right? It's something that can definitely be done. Whereas if you're a kind of smaller, older woman with a desk job, maybe you're shorter, and your energy needs are only 2,000 calories, then suddenly eating down at 1,000 calories a day is likely below your BMR. You're kind of playing with hormonal fire, and it's very difficult. So it depends a lot on how much energy you can play with. And as I'll show you in the graph right now, energy needs of people are absolutely all over the place. So there is loads and loads of variation. And if I just kind of draw a simple graph like this, this is weight, and this is calories. And basically, people with high energy needs, they can definitely create 1,000 calorie deficit. People with medium energy needs, it's a fair bit harder and they'll have to add a bit of exercise. And people who have really low energy needs for their weight, it is very hard, if not impossible, to lose 2 pounds a week. And the only way to do it is to add a massive amount of activity or cardio to your day, because you simply can't keep on cutting all the way down below 1,000 calories a day, because it's just going to create all types of hormonal problems and make things too hard and erode your health and the nutrient of what you're eating. So that's how it is. Obviously, it depends massively on your energy needs. That's where it starts. And what you tend to find is people who are bigger, so people who are 250 pounds, 300 pounds, it's totally within their range to lose that type of weight per week. Whereas if you're a 130-pound woman, the idea of losing 2 pounds a week is just way too ambitious, and you need to be much more realistic. Okay, and lastly, I just want to give you 5 practical steps that you can use to kind of get this going. So if you've got plenty of energy to play with and you're a reasonable weight, say you're 200 pounds, then aiming to lose 2 pounds a week at the start, 1% of your body weight, is a great idea. And you can do that, tracking macros or calories or whatever. But even if you're tracking, there are still some simple things that you want to do just to help control your hunger and make the process easier. So first up, I'm just going to say, try to avoid liquid calories. Calorie for calorie, calories that you drink are just not nearly as filling as calories that you eat. There's funny studies where they blend up fruit and give people whole fruit, and they find that just eating the whole fruit as opposed to the blended fruit is more filling. And this is, the calories that we get from juice and from soda or from milky coffees, and it's just really poor calories in terms of satiety. So avoid liquid calories if you can. Not totally, but minimize liquid calories. Secondly, just eat more protein. It's a very simple hack. It's a bit expensive, a bit annoying, but protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It has the highest thermic effect, and it will help you hold on to muscle mass as you're dieting down. So it's a no-brainer. Next up, to eat better fats. So the days of kind of cutting all the fat out of your diet are kind of past, but, you can lower your fat, but you want to keep some fat in there. And when you choose your fats, just choose better fats, because actually, really crappy added fat in the diet is really obesogenic. It's really easy to overeat foods where they add kind of poor quality, cheap vegetable oil that makes all this junk food. Whereas natural fats, we know from the old satiety index that fats that naturally have, foods that naturally have fat in them, like, salmon or eggs or Greek yogurt or these types of things, they're pretty filling. So you want to go for better fat choices, which is just to eat more natural fats. Next up, in terms of your carbs, you want to eat more voluminous carbs. And when I say voluminous carbs, you don't want to cut all the carbs out of your diet necessarily, unless you're doing some keto thing or whatever. But you just want to make better carb choices, which means more voluminous ones. So, for instance, very dense kind of sweets, you know, the energy density will be right up near 4 because there's no water, it's just all carbs, and it's very, and then you've got things like crackers and crisps and biscuits where it's very dense, and then there's something like bread, which is okay, but it's not particularly filling. Then for the more filling starches, you've got voluminous carbs, which are things that have water and fiber in them, which stretch your stomach and make you feel full. So things like boiled potatoes, rice, oatmeal. For your starches, those are much more, which is why you'll classically find bodybuilders eating foods like that. And then, as you get even more voluminous, you've got kind of your low sugar berries and fruits. Sorry, your less sugary fruits, which are great. So berries, apples, citrus, these types of things, very voluminous. And then finally, you've got these kind of fibrous vegetables, the green veggies, and you can just load up on those because there's just nothing in them. They fill up your stomach. They're full of micronutrients. They're just the most wonderful foods. You know, things like broccoli, spinach, cucumber, zucchini, these types of things, you can just eat them all day. They are so healthy and are really good at helping you stay full. So yeah, that's basically it. Losing 2 pounds a week is not always the best goal for everyone. I would recommend, if you're starting out, to aim for 1% of your body weight. So if you're 250 pounds, losing 2.5 pounds a week is a great goal. If you're 200 pounds, losing 2 pounds a week is a great goal. If you're 150 pounds, 101.5 pounds a week, that's pushing it, but it's still a good goal, and it's a great starting point. So if you start off losing 1% per week, and then it gradually grinds down to 0.5% a week, you know that regardless of what you're doing, if it's intermittent fasting or keto or vegetarian or paleo, doesn't matter. If you have that kind of trend where you start up at 1% a week and grind down to about 0.5% a week, you know that you're losing weight in a really sustainable way, but also at a decent clip, enough to keep you motivated, and probably doing it in quite a healthy way as well. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, get on into it and make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you jump on the email list and get our 5 simple strategies to start losing weight cheat sheet.